Alright, let's get started. So, for today, what we're going to do is the rest of the lesson ends around page 72. After page 72, it goes into some printing instructions that shows you how to set up your document to be printed, and that's what I actually want you to do. Once you're finished with it, we won't be able to print it off on a big printer, on a big 11 by 17 sheet of paper, but you can scale it down and print it off on the regular printer that we have in here. And I'll show you how to do that once we get into it. I noticed several of y'all, or both of y'all, were able to get pretty far on this particular document and how to use the different drawing tools. So I'll go over some of the drawing tools in a little bit of detail. But in the end, this is the way your document should be set up. Remember that the lines that you created, the black line that goes around your document, that's going to be the actual document edge. The red lines, the blue lines, and the pink lines, these are all margins that you set up. They won't print, but they're just there to help you lay out everything and make sure everything is in alignment. Here's a quick tip. If you want to turn off your margins, let's say you just wanted to see this the way it would look once it's printed, you can hit Command and the colon, which is next to the L, so Command colon will turn off the margins, and so that's all that you're seeing on here is just it. You will, however, see the little blue bounding boxes that go around any of the objects that you've created. So if you put a picture on there, if you put text, you can still see the blue bounding box. To turn those off, you can hit, let's see if I do this right, Control Command H. Hey, it worked. Control Command and the letter H will turn on and off the bounding box that you're working with. So this kind of gives you a better view of how it will print off without showing you any of the guides. So Command colon, let's turn back on our margins. Control Command H, turn back on our bounding box. Let's see, if I remember correctly, you can also change up the way things will display. Oh, I've got myself into this. By going to your screen mode, by default we're working under normal. I believe if you click preview, it'll crop off everything, because remember I said anything that's outside of your document dialog or your document page will not print. It's going to be trimmed off anyway. So if you went to view, chose screen mode, and I believe preview will knock out everything, and you can see exactly how it will look once it's printed and cropped off and everything. So view, screen view. You can also turn on what it'll look like just with the bleeding edge, so it gives you that little extra bit. And if you have a slug or if you have any extra information, you can turn to that one as well. Most of the time, we want to work under normal mode so that we can actually see everything that we're creating. Give you some more keyboard shortcuts, and these are the same thing in Photoshop and Illustrator. If you want to quickly zoom in on something, you can hit Command and the plus sign, and it will generally zoom in to wherever is the center of your screen. So if I wanted to zoom in to just the this logo, Command plus sign, go in really quick. Command minus sign, do the opposite. We'll zoom back out. If you find that you just want to quickly see the entire page, Command and the 0 key will automatically scale it to where you can see 100% the entire page that you're working on. So 0, plus and minus sign are just great little tools to work through. If you didn't notice it before, you also have your zoom tool off to the side. With it, you can click and drag over any area and automatically zoom in to it. Notice how you got a plus sign in the middle of it? If you hold down your Option key, you got a minus sign now. And when you click, you can zoom back out. All good for navigation? Little quick, simple things whenever you're showing something to somebody. These are just great little tips to work with. I'll show you a little tip that I like to use whenever someone wants to see a preview or they want me to email them a proof of what I'm working on. Whatever I'm working on, especially if it's in InDesign, I'll change my display mode to preview, so it shows me exactly what it's going to be, and I take a screenshot of whatever is on my screen, and I send them a JPEG. Do you know how to do a screenshot?
If I remember, it's very different on the Mac. You have to
Yep.
press a certain Mac kind of macro.
Yep, exactly. Very close. It's Shift Command 4, not the F4. So Shift Command 4, you can see my cursor is changed into a crosshair. I can then click and drag. I'll turn on my, when I let go over this particular area, usually it does a little clicking sound, but it'll make a clicking sound. I'm going to hit Command and F3 and we'll go to the desktop. And here's the screenshot that it created. So if I double click, it'll open up this screenshot. And this is what I would send to a client just very quickly. It's low resolution. It gives them a great idea of what it looks like. And I don't have to worry about saving it as a PDF or converting it to a JPEG. Whatever I have for the screenshot will work out well. So that's just kind of a pro tip for you. Alright, let's go back into screen mode and we'll go back into normal. What we're going to be doing today is loading up different types of images and actually loading up text into our document. I'm going to close this out, and just for the sake of it, I'll create a new document. And we'll say OK, work from here. You'll also notice when you have multiple documents opened up in InDesign, it's the same way as in Photoshop. So they'll dock together like this. You can click and drag them off, and so now I've got two different documents I can go back and forth between. For now, I'll just dock them back up there, and we'll keep it that way. Let's see, for your drawing tools, you got into it, and y'all are actually doing a really good job using the pen tool. But if, just in case you didn't know, we've got the pen tool. The pen tool allows you to draw lines in vector format. Vector drawing is very, very different from raster drawing. In Photoshop, when you deal with pixels, you're dealing with a raster graphics. Vector graphics allow you to tell the computer exactly where you want a point to be and to draw lines or draw shapes between different points. So with the pen tool, the main thing I need to remember is where my starting point is. So if I was to click once and then click again, it's going to draw a line between those 2 points and create whatever shape that I want to create with it. If I was to hover over the beginning point again, watch my cursor. It goes from having a pen to a pen with a little circle at the end of it. That circle, you see it, will give you, means when I click on that beginning point again, it's going to close off my object. Now it's one solid object. Whenever you create an object in vector format, of course you've got the different little points. You can use your white arrow, so your direct selection tool, and you can move those points around. And this will give you the ability to refine any shape that you have and change it up. Of course, I've just made a really funky, interesting shape all at once. With your black arrow, if you were to select the object, it would move all of the points at the same time. So the white arrow does individual points, the black arrow does the entire object as a whole. Another thing to keep in mind is the colors that you're working with. Whenever you draw with vector, there's two different colors. There's a fill color and there's a stroke color or an outline color. I'll show you the quickest way to pick the two different colors. If you'll look in the top center of your screen, you've got two different color swatches. Right now there's no fill color to what I have selected, so that's why it's got the red dash going through it. If I was to click the arrow, I can choose some of these pre-made swatches. Say I chose red, that would fill in the fill color as red. The outline or the stroke is showing up as black. I can change it to any other color, say yellow or green, or if I clicked on none, I can get rid of the stroke altogether, and now it's just a basic outlined shape in itself. So very, very simple, very easy way of choosing, but the main thing to remember is there's a fill color and a stroke color. You can even double click on the little color swatches under your tools palette and choose a specific color from your color picker. I really don't like this color picker. I wish this color picker was the same as they use in Photoshop, because it's not intuitive. If I want a lighter color, I don't know that white is up here like the other one. Oh well, that's my personal preference. I'll just say okay. So this is a great way of picking out colors. Let's see. Oh, just to remind you, I think it was you that pointed out last time, whenever you pick a color, let's say I wanted this pretty bright, vibrant green. And when I say OK, it doesn't turn out so vibrant. It's a little bit more muted. As a matter of fact, if I was to try to pick it again, you can see it drop my picker down in this area. That's because right now, anything that's printed works in CMYK, the off on a printer. RGB is what your monitor uses. Literally, I don't know, maybe you've done this in high school or in science. You can take a flashlight that has a blue filter on it, a green filter, and a red filter, 3 different flashlights, shine them together at one point, it'll make white light. You'll cross them all together because the mixture of red, green, and blues makes white light together. But on a printer, if you start mixing different colors together, what do you get? Yeah, you get muddy brown, you get black, you get different types of things. So RGB, red, green, and blue, what that's talking about is the emitted light. It's called additive light. CMYK is subtractive light. It's working with the printer.
So if you want to pick CMYK color,
Yeah.
click on the add CMYK.
You can add a CMYK swatch. So let's say I'm going to choose this one, add CMYK swatch. Now, when I say OK, I can go up to my color swatches, and there's that color swatch that I added, already converted to CMYK. That's what it's doing right there. So, good question. All right, so let's see. I'll go back. Another thing, final thing to remember is your stroke, not just its color. See, I'm going to give it a black color again, but also the width of it. By default, when you start drawing in vector, the width of it, it's located next to your colors, is 1 point. And you can make it as wide as you need it to. But notice the width of it, it goes from the center point outward. So it's not going to be just the outside edge, it's from the center point around. And you can move it around, use your white arrow and still refine it. Whoop, if I click just on 1 point, got to do that as well. Any questions before I move on? Real simple, real easy type things. What they have you do in your book is you start drawing off a line straight across. By the way, if you hold down your shift key, you can get a straight line every time without fail. Up or down, left or right, it'll give you a straight line. I'll undo and back that up. Then you're going to add points to it. If you have your pen tool selected, you can click anywhere on a line, and if you look real close, when I hover over the line, it'll add a little plus sign to the pen tool itself. This means you can add points to that line. And with those points added, you can then move the line around. Whoop, I had both of those selected, but if I was to select just this point, I can move the entire line and it will adjust all by itself that way. I think y'all picked that up pretty well. You can even move this over. The final thing is, if you want to make a straight line turned into a curved line, there's an entire tool devoted to doing that. If you'll click and hold on your pen tool, you've got the convert direction point tool. Ugh, it's a mouthful to say. But if you click on any one of the points and you drag, you get these Bezier handles. And these handles will allow you to adjust the curvature of any line that you have before committing to it. So if we go back to today's project, let's see where it is, the identity project. Somebody coming in? Must be the wind. That's what y'all did here. You're going to create that curved line right there, real easy to pick up on. But that's what that tool specifically does. It allows you to create curvature of lines. All right, so once you've created it, you'll make the little black area up at the top. The next thing that we're going to get into today is actually adding images to the different image boxes that you created. I'll go back over here. I'm going to select everything on here. The keyboard shortcut is Command A for all. When I hit Command A, notice I'll get a little bounding box around everything. And with everything selected, I can either scale it or transform it, move it. In my case, I'm going to hit delete and delete it all away. So that's just a quick way of selecting everything and deleting everything. Whenever you create a picture box, you want to make sure to use the rectangle frame tool. This is the one that when you make a picture box, it'll give you a blue X to it. There is a rectangle tool that allows you to quickly draw rectangles by themselves. With that one, if I was to click and drag, it'll create a rectangle, but it won't give me the X inside of it. That will indicate that there's nothing inside of it. Instead, it's created a vector rectangle, and I can choose the individual points and change up that rectangle, and notice that it even has a stroke going around it. The rectangle frame tool is specifically for creating, putting pictures into your document. So with it selected, and I thought this was really cool. I didn't know that Illustrator could do this until I started working this project. When you click and drag and you hit your up arrow or left and right arrows, you can add rows and columns of the same type of rectangle frame tool and add stuff to it. That's a fantastic little feature. That's I used Cork Express growing up, and so this is something Cork Express didn't have, so it's well worth it to use that. So I've got my rectangle frame box, my picture box created. To drop in images, you would go up to File and down to Place. And for this particular document that we're working on, remember you're going to download the CS5 InDesign Project 1, and there's a thing called, I believe Crow is the name of the file that's inside of it. Let's see, I'm just going to choose one of these thumbnails and we'll work from it. In this case, I'll choose the, this is her logo that she's working with. Here's another little tip that they didn't go over in the book. This works only for Macintosh. If you want to preview what it looks like and you don't see the preview off to the right hand side, you can always select the file that you want to open and press your space bar. And this will open up a preview and show you exactly what it looks like on screen. So if I wanted the thumbnail, I can press it, press my space bar, and get a preview of what it looks like. Kind of cool. You can, of course, choose the little tree flowing one, and when you icon at the top, whatever icon you click on will give you a small preview off to the side as well. And it usually works for most different documents. So, all right, let's load up. I'm going to choose one at random. Choose thumb 1, and when I hit OK. When I hit OK, my cursor now has this picture that's attached to it, and it wants to know where do I place it. Where can I place this document? I can then click on the image that I created, and it will flow it into this particular frame. Now the image itself is really small and the frame that I created is very big. That's why you can see the bounding box around it and the image on the inside being much smaller. I can always click and move this around. I can even change up the size of my frame and make it smaller, and you can see it will very easily crop that picture out. Or I can make it bigger, and there'll be more room. Another thing you'll notice, when I hover my mouse over the picture frame, I get this little round circle in the center of it. When I click on it, it'll then give me a bounding box around the picture that's inside of the frame itself. So now I can click on it and resize the picture that's inside of it. If you hold down Shift, make sure it'll stay proportional. You can make it whatever size that you want from there. So click and drag, make it smaller. If I click off, it'll deselect it. Just as for your knowledge, you can always choose your direct selection tool, the white arrow. It'll do the same thing. The white arrow will allow you to move the picture without worrying about the picture frame that's inside of it. And this, the black arrow will, if I deselect it, will move the entire picture frame by itself. Another thing you can do, let's see, I can go to File. If I didn't create a picture frame, I can go to File and Place. I'm going to choose another one, say thumbnail 5. When I hit Open, if I was just to click off in an open area, it'll automatically create a picture frame for me that fits the size of the box that I have. So automatically it's got it there. I can even hover over it. You can see there's my small circle. I can click and move my image around inside of that frame as well. Is that making sense? Let's say I wanted to resize my image. without having to first resize my frame and then having to go and resize my image by itself. I'm going to undo, so Command Z, back it up. With it selected, if you'll choose Auto Fit, this is in the upper towards the right middle of your screen, Auto Fit will automatically fit whatever's inside of your frame to the size of the frame itself. So now if I was to click and drag, you can see it's automatically changing up both the size of the image and the frame. Now even if I make the frame slightly smaller, it's adjusting to the width of the frame that I'm working in. So this is a great, easy way of keeping everything proportional and keeping your frames just the size that you need it to be. That's what Auto Fit allows you to do once you're working with it. So I can make it smaller, it's going to crop out, and then change it up from there. Alright. One thing you never want to do as a professional is to skew or distort. Whoa. Give me a second, let me resize this. I'll take off Auto Fit. You never want to distort the images that you're working on. So if I was to say change up the size of this image, I don't want to make it, fit my frame, even if my frame is tall and thin, by changing up the dimensions or proportions of this image. You don't want to squish it together or stretch it out. That's just a major no-no. You always want to hold down your Shift key and keep everything proportional, or choose Auto Fit to make sure it stays proportional. Auto Fit is your friend. Alright. Also for today, I'll go back to our identity page. You're going to load up multiple images into the little frames that you have down here. It's going to have each one of them. I'm going to delete out all of these and show you how it's done. So I'm going to first, I've got my direct selection tool, the white arrow. I can click on it and press delete, and it will delete just the image but keeps my frame intact. So select, delete. All I have to do is click on each one and delete it all away. If we wanted to load up multiple images all at once, you can go to File and Place again. Instead of doing these one at a time, I'm going to select all 8 of these thumbnails by holding down the clicking on the first one, hold down the Shift key, and select all 8. Now when I say open, I still got my my little preview that's on there, and if you look closely, there's a number 8 that's next to it. I'm going to just click on each one of the picture frames, scoop, doop, 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 and automatically it's going to load it up wherever I click. Great fast way of doing that. Another thing it's going to ask you to do is to set each one of these to be automatically to have Auto Fit turned on. So notice when I select this one, I've got Auto Fit turned on in there. Since they're all grouped together, they're all one solid object, so if I was to move them, they all kind of move together as one. That's because, remember, when you created it, they asked you to go to Edit and, Object, and group it together. You can open up your Layers palette, and you'll look for the word Group that's inside of it. And there's a little arrow next to it. When you click on the arrow next to Group, it's going to give you a listing of everything that's grouped together. And in this case, you can see there's the thumbnail 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, all the way to 1. So each one of these is grouped together as one solid object. Is that making sense? So they're going to act together as one. If you needed to select any of these, you can always click on the little button, the little square off to the right-hand side. With it selected, you can see now this one, number 6, is selected, or number 7, or number 8. So whichever one you click on, that's the one that's going to be affected to work with. So that's kind of just the basics of adding pictures to the document that you're working on. The next thing is adding actual text to your document once you start creating it. Remember, the advantage of using InDesign is it allows you to add text and pictures together over multiple pages. So this, rather than Photoshop working on one page at a time or one document at a time, this will allow you to work on multiple documents. Just as you use the rectangle frame tool to create an area to insert pictures, you're going to use your text tool or your type tool to create an area to insert text. I'm going to delete this away. Choose my type tool. And with it, you always need to click and drag to create a type box to type in. With it selected, you'll have a blinking cursor, usually at the top left-hand side, to which you can start typing in whatever you want it to say. And I believe this one you're going to type the word urban architecture and natural landscapes. Just now noticed that I misspelled natural up there. It's God knew what he was doing when he found me my wife. My wife is an English teacher, so like she catches things and all my grammar mistakes and everything. So, but I'm horrible at spelling. So if you see something, you know that I typed it. That way. Well, once you type out something, you can always select the text. Works just like any other text editor you've ever used. To change up the font and the sizing and even some of the formatting, that's going to be up at the top in your control panel. Notice some of the controls are going to be very different than other type. Right here is where you can choose your font. Click the up and down arrow. Let's see. Okay, I think they're going to use ATC. Oh, there it is, ATC Oak. In our case, we're going to choose italic. So it's changed the font that you're using. To change the size of it, it's this one right here. So you can make it larger by clicking the up and down arrows. Or you can choose a predefined size. Or, if necessary, you can always highlight it and type in a specific size that you need. In this case, I'll just type in 17 and it'll create it right there. Also, if you need to adjust where the what alignment it has, so when you're typing, right now it's aligned to the left, you can always highlight it, and here's your alignment in the upper center portion of your control panel. So there's center, there it is, aligned to the right. It'll only align to the text box that you create, not to the entire page. So, to move it around, I'm going to choose my selection tool again. I can always click and drag anywhere inside of there and move it up to here. If I was to make this much smaller, notice that all the text is going to stay within the box itself. If I made it too small, watch what will happen. First of all, it'll get rid of the text altogether, and if you look really closely, there's a red little button on the far right-hand side of the text box. This means that there's not enough room to hold the text that you're working on. So you either make it bigger or change the size of what you're working on. Also, they're going to ask you to place it on top of this black area, so you've got to be able to change out the type itself. Do you remember what it's called when you have white type on a black area? Reverse type, very good. So to reverse it out, choose your type tool. Of course, we want to highlight the text we're going to affect. And just as you can change the color and the upper center portion of your control panel, notice it has a T now. Now you can change the color of it to white or paper, and that's how you would change that out as well. Final thing I'll show you, and I'll turn it back over to you to work, is just as you can load up text or pictures from a specific file, you're going to load up text from another specific file. Let's see, I'll go to our today's work. Where is it? Oh, bear with me for just a second. I think I have my downloads folder. There it is. Okay. So you're going to add the contact information. And in this case, the contact information was saved as a text file, an RTF. It looks like this, very, very small to read. But in other words, it was created on another document altogether. We're going to create a text file. Click and drag. And go to File. And we're going to go down to Place. And instead of choosing one of the images, we're going to choose the contact information and choose Open. Just like the image gave you a little preview following your cursor, you can click on, it gives you a little preview of the text. So when I click on here, it will automatically flow that into there as well. So you can quickly add multiple text into your document. This is really great when I did page layout for a newspaper. People would type up their newspaper articles, usually in Microsoft Word, but I would do layout in Quark Express or in InDesign. So I would have to take their text and just flow it into the document that I already had. Didn't have to copy and paste. I just chose their document, chose where I wanted it to go, and InDesign did the rest of the work from there. And so that's how you would flow text from another document into this one. Once you're done with that, you'll do your formatting, you'll align it to the right-hand side of this page, and you'll be ready to print. Let me show you the print dialog box. I think that'll be the last thing. We can go to File and Print. In here we have two different printers. We've got a black and white and a color printer. The color printer is the one you're going to want to choose, and it's the Phaser 8560N. Hopefully it's got paper in it today. If not, I'll get up and check it. But with the Phaser selected, from here, it's going to give you your different options. In our case, we only have one page to print, but if you needed, you can choose between a range of pages. So if you only wanted to print page 2 to page 5, that's possible as well. Also, we want to turn on our marks and bleeds. So we choose marks and bleeds. And remember, you have your bleed area on the outside. If you turn on all the printer's marks by clicking on the check mark, it's going to turn on your crop marks, which will tell us where to crop it, our bleed marks, our registration, everything else that works from there. But when I do that, notice in our preview, the little page, it's kind of going outside into this darker area. If that ever happens, that means you need more space. It's going to overprint. To get around this, you can either print on a larger piece of paper, which is what we can't do in here, or you can scale down what you're working on. That's how to scale it down. We'll go back to General, and let's see if I can remember where to do this. It's been a while. Go to Setup. Setup is where we want to scale. We're going to choose Scale to Fit. So to scale it down, choose Setup on the left-hand side, Scale to Fit, and that's going to scale it down to about 86%. Once you've turned on your marks and bleeds, you've got your setup going good, you can hit Print, and we'll give it just a couple of minutes to send to the printer, and it'll print off. From there, and I'll show you what the whole marks and bleeds will look like once it's done. Any questions about today?
Like in Photoshop, is there a way for you to preserve whether or not how many pixels are on the picture if you make it smaller? Or
Yeah.
if you scale it?
Like create a smart object from it. In InDesign, no, there's no way of doing it. You're kind of at the mercy of whatever the document is set up to be as. So if someone saves it at 300, that's kind of what you're having to work with. 300 dots per inch resolution. One thing you can do, just so you don't freak out about it, like let's say this is a vector graphic that of their logo that they're bringing in. Right now, however, if you zoom in, it looks very, very choppy. The edges have those jaggy little edges to them. One thing that Illustrator will do to make it run a little faster is it will kind of preview things in a lower resolution than it'll actually print. If you want to look at it the way it'll actually print, you can always go to View and choose Display Performance. See, right now it's set to typical display. If I was to change it to high quality display, watch the graphic behind there. Now it's popped into really nice graphics. I can zoom in, and it's given me the full range to work with. So go to View, Display Mode, Display Performance. If you're working on like a laptop or a slower computer, you'll want to turn on typical or even fast display because it won't eat up so much memory, and it'll let your computer run a lot faster because it's not having to crunch all those numbers and work with resolution. That's it from there. I think another thing, this will help you out. Under links, there is a way you can tell what resolution it will print off as. Let me do research and I'll get back to that with that on the next class. That's a good question. There is a way you can tell what your images will print off as, even if you scale them or resize them, so you can still stay within that 300 recommended DPI. All right.
So for the purpose of this exercise, we're just auto-fitting all the images?
Yes.
I remember there was something else in the intro where we did to place images that I don't recall exactly where it was. I think it was in one of the toolbar menus that you would select how it would fit into the image box.
Let's see. File and place. Is it one? Let's see. Is it one of these options down here?
It was after we had already set it inside.
Oh, I see. I see what you mean. So I think I know what you mean. When let's say this one was selected, it was probably one of these up here where you can fit the content proportionally, or maybe fill the have the content fill the frame itself. I think it's probably one of those that you selected. For this particular project, those buttons won't come into play.
Okay.
You will, however, have to set auto fit to several of your image boxes.
And the code photography is going to be a separate item that we just import?
It is, yeah. They've got it saved as an Illustrator file that you'll place in there as well. I think that'll be the first thing that you place in there. Alrighty, I'm going to turn your computer back over to you and let you get started. Like I said, try to shoot to see if you can finish it up